Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Lauricella, Teen Services and Makerspace Manager at the Witon Library. Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome you to our virtual performance of Poetry in Motion 2020 and beyond. Poetry in Motion was a teen program that ran at the Witon Library for 11 years. Our last performance was in spring 2017. And I have to say, in my 19 plus years at the library, I think this was the best and most heartfelt program I ever dealt with. Several months ago, Abby Schiff, a former participant, emailed me and said, "Hey, Mrs. Lauricella, how about gathering some of the past performers and doing a virtual performance?" So I thought about it for a while and then said, sure, why not? The theme for this year is centered on 2020. And as we all know, there's plenty of material to work with there. Abby and I asked everyone to write poems about the challenges they've faced, little slices of life, self-discoveries, humorous moments, silver linings, as well as their hopes for the future. So tonight's performance is a reunion of some of the fabulous students and professionals I had the privilege of working with over that 11-year period. Before Claire Whitin tells you a little bit more about Poetry in Motion, I would like to remind everyone to please keep your microphones and video cameras off during the performance. And with that, here's Claire Whitin.
Thank you, Mrs. Lauricella. Always Susan, but newly Susan to me. Tonight's performance will harken back to the 11 incredible years of Witon Library's Poetry in Motion while incorporating the wild ride that's been 2020. But back to where I began. Started in 2006, Poetry in Motion provided a desperately needed creative outlet for the many you now see on your screen. It was the first intentional forum to put in the hard work, the good work of working through topics like diversity and tolerance. I'll speak for many former participants when I say I learned to be vulnerable in this performance space. I learned how to take feedback graciously and how to push myself to embody it. I made real friends here, ones who stayed in touch, but many whose memories I carry alongside Poetry in Motion and the Brewback Room in my mind. I met some of my first and most formative mentors. We would be remiss not to honor them here, as they shaped our performances, but more so our adolescence. There are incredible library champions, Susan Lauricella and Jennifer Walker, and Barb Lyons at Witon High School, our kind and funny teacher, Heather Candels, our devoted director, Nancy Ponturo, our poet and coach, Regie Gibson, plus Tony Burnett on the keys and sometimes the brass, and our many Witon Dance Studio creatives. I hope the well-paced, well-punctuated, and meaningful poems performed tonight will make you proud. I hope that this display of lifelong creativity built on foundational Poetry in Motion rehearsals and many discarded drafts will make you prouder. The student poets who came before me, performed alongside me, and came after me have described their previous and newfound involvement with the longstanding community as inspiring, vivacious, enduring, imaginative, liberating, and warm. And audience, tonight, I hope you hear and see and feel some of this warmth too. May it buoy your spirits for the night and hopefully awake some of your latent creativity. Enjoy.
there, I'm Abby Schiff, and this is The Boys Are Back in Town. Lock your doors, hide the spare key, purchase a chastity belt, take it from me. Block their numbers before it's too late. Here come the horrible hipsters you used to date. From New York to San Francisco, they will come calling, and the pickup lines they use will all be appalling. Rewatching The Office is getting boring, so time to hit up girls they were ignoring. Brad and Chad, Jake and Blake, stalking your Instagram, keeping you awake. Hope you're doing well, they playfully type, but even if they're hot, don't believe the hype. Secondhand flannel, beard untrimmed, quotes from beatnik poems he skimmed. Sam can't wait to wow you with his controversial takes before you get too clingy and he pumps the brakes. Yes, Matt has profiles on Tinder and Hinge, but you're the only one with whom he'd Netflix binge. I'm ethically non-monogamous, he persuasively insists, for he needs the affection of several women to subsist. Conveniently forgetting he ghosted last June, defining the relationship 3 months in was too soon. After 2 days immersed in deep meditation, Ken is emotionally available for a casual situation. It's been a while, he astutely observes. You'll provide the validation he rightly deserves. AirPods in his ears, overpriced IPA in hand, Greg will convince you Tame Impala is the best band. He'll show off his mom's gluten-free banana bread before sending you a Snapchat from his childhood bed. Felt cute, might delete later, he'll demurely state, even though that reference is years out of date. This FaceTime date with Aaron seems to be going fine, but something is revealed that crosses the line. As you're about to suggest another call, you notice a live, laugh, love poster upon the wall. And just down below, it's the Mount Everest of laundry. Are his underpants clean? Now that's a quandary. Yes, we're all lonely. I do understand. It's normal to crave someone to hold our hand. But why don't you find some new women to annoy? Ones whose hearts you didn't callously destroy? If we're going to be chatting on Zoom for hours, the least you could do is send me some flowers. We're dealing with a disease that's easily transmitted, so I don't want to hear that you aren't committed. Because if I wind up on my deathbed coughing up bile, you better make sure you are worth my while.
Hi, I'm Gemma Gamberdell, and this is Love Letters from my gym. Let's set the scene in January, a long ago time of merriment and shopping, and in a post-resolution haze, I sign up for kickboxing. It's invigorating. I'm in my prime. I thrive on the dopamine and only throw up a couple of times. But here comes March. Now the gym is closed, and I won't get into details, but when they shuttered their doors, no one turned off their automatic emails. "We miss you," the subject line screams into my inbox, telling me I haven't been to class in 2 weeks. I write back, "I'm confused. You're the one who's closed. I'll see you after Easter, my peeps." Week 3, like clockwork. "You made a commitment to yourself," the message cries. I know that, but I have to sit on my couch and eat chips. There's a pandemic outside. They just keep rolling in, week after week, month after month. Quarantine drags on. The messages are littered with shame. "Don't you want to get strong?" It's not me, it's you. I try to end it on the phone, but no one answers when I call. When will I be left alone? Ding, a new email. "You've been gone for 4 months, weeks, a month. Was wanting to be your best self some kind of fad?" "You've been closed for 3 weeks, I shoot back. I'll admit that first week was definitely me. That's my bad." The messages keep coming. The offers grow more seductive. Week 5 offers me a free water with my next class, an offer I find counterproductive. Let's still be friends, I tell my gym. You're gonna make someone really happy someday, but it's not me right now, and this virus hasn't gone away. Finally, after 6 weeks, the email. This is our last attempt to get you back to class. I stare at the words in shock, but did I truly think this would last? The chase is over. I guess this is goodbye. I can't say I hated being pursued. But then I get emails for weeks 7, 8, and 9. So here we are, December, almost a year from my resolution, 34 weeks and 1 day since I've entered that kickboxing institution. 35 emails saying you miss me. I have one last question though. Haven't you heard if you love someone, you're supposed to let them go?
My name is Elise Vocke, and my poem is called A Tribute for My Beloved Cat. I named you Celebration. Who hasn't heard of that song? The first time I laid eyes on you was when you arrived in my college apartment during my junior year at the U of Michigan. You were very small, about the size of a basketball. Gray fur, green eyes. That was when you were a kitten. Just 3 months old. Even though I was a plane ride away from family, you gave me TLC. Every day, you ran to greet me when I got home from class. Every night, we cuddled. After a stressful exam or bad day, you always cheered me up. We moved to New York together after I graduated from college. You still ran to the door daily when you heard me coming home from a long day at the startup. Then COVID hit, and it was back to Connecticut. When I sobbed for a day after getting laid off, you laid on my chest and purred. Now in Spain, I teach English while my heart yearns for you. Daily on FaceTime, I tell you about my school, exploring Madrid, sampling the food, and struggling to speak in Spanish to the pharmacist or taking the wrong bus for 40 minutes. People from Madrid are called cats in Spanish, but it's not the same. No amount of tapas, sangria, or paella can take away my longing for you, my fur baby. When we are reunited again for the holidays, we'll excitedly greet each other. We'll play with your cat toys as I tell you about Spain. We'll enjoy dinner together, you with your blue buffalo and me with mom's homemade pasta. And finally, when it is time to sleep, I will drift into my slumber with the sound of your purrs and the feeling of your paws lightly pressing into my chest, kneading. I long for that day, knowing how fun it will be when I am finally reunited with you, my celebration.
Hi, I'm Sara Gardner, and this is Another Reason I Don't Keep Snacks in the House, an ode to Billy Collins. I heard it one night, scratching, scratching, scratching. As I lay awake in bed, my eyes shot open. 2020 was my year of independence, adulthood, 26 and living in her own apartment. Until an unruly, hungry roommate came scratching, scuttling, scrounging, searching for food, morsels, crumbs in my kitchen. Ripping through wrappers while I attempt once, twice, 3 times to drift into a peaceful slumber, only to stumble into my kitchen and set a trap. But I'm rewarded with the victorious gnawings of a wrapper. I want to sleep, I say. May these crinkles liven your dreams, it says. I'm independent, I assert. You are a grown woman, kept up by a mouse, it responds. It's been a month since a frantic call to my harried landlord. The scratching, scrounging, scraping has ceased. A month of peaceful sleep without my mousy roommate. There is no famous mouse coda of any symphony I know, but nothing sounds sweeter than the high, scratch-free notes of silence.
Hi, I'm Sophie Halter, and my poem is called Voids. When I see blue and red lights flashing, I squeeze his hand tighter. The hairs on my neck stand, my palms weep like condensation, my heart plummets to the bottom of my stomach. I wonder how quickly I can pull my phone out of my pocket. I wonder how quickly his hand reaching for his phone is mistaken for a gun, means the end of his hand and mine, and I press a red button to watch our hands slip away. I whip my head to the side to make sure he's still there. I see our hands, I see his face, and I see his smile. But sometimes what I see is a tombstone, a deathly fate predetermined by a country where the color of his skin, her skin, their skin is used as a weapon against them. So they are blamed for their own deaths. He shouldn't have held a toy gun in his hand or sold CDs or pulled over his car. She shouldn't have bought orange juice or played video games with her nephew or fallen asleep in bed, motionless, before it was permanent. They shouldn't have defined binaries, expressed themselves, or exercised their right to love who they love. It seems to me that no one will believe in a guilty gun. Its user uncharged, always defended, never held accountable. Instead, we have witnessed the defense of a complicit majority, but it's becoming to be a nuisance, a reiteration of noose sense that produced fields of strange fruit and silenced generations of families who were crying for justice and just wished to see more celebrations and fewer funerals. So I have to believe there is a way to make sure that when his hand lets go of mine, he's picking a home, not his coffin, that he's picking presidents, not cotton, that he doesn't have to rationalize his joy or his rage. There has to be a way to make the world understand that when he reaches into his pocket, there is no weapon, just a phone to capture a moment of us and our hands gripping onto slivers of hope of what will become.
Hi, my name is Regie Gibson, and this piece is called A New Narrative. In this story, science is a joke, and democracy a punchline. In this story, our leaders' mouths so often wound us into a civic sleep. In this story, we pretend we don't hear the shrill call of blood and soil, don't hear the rising white supremacist howl of Jews will not replace us. We pretend we don't see the police putting holes into those black boys. In this story, it is so tempting to play the oblivious, the one who ignores. So tempting that we barely notice how the story begins to live inside us, how it drives and divides us against each other, makes us become indifferent to the ways in which we make each other suffer. And sometimes, when we catch ourselves in the mirror, swaying in the swelling spell of it, we become ashamed and turn away in fear of our own ugly. This ugliness that has scripted so much of our history and present and threatens to script our future. But we don't have to let that happen. We can face it. We can script a new narrative, a narrative in which we refuse to play the oblivious, the one who ignores, a narrative in which we rise up and fight the darkness of our worst isms, our sexism, our racism, our ageism, our ableism, our fascism. A narrative in which we voice the better isms of our nature: altruism, egalitarianism, volunteerism, humanism. A narrative in which we create other isms: you have the right to remain black and innocent and unshot ism. You have the right to not be harassed and sexually assaulted ism. You have the right to be educated well ism. You have the right to scientific fact ism. You have the right to have your vote counted ism. I will stop turning my back on your pain ism. I will stand up for the humanity of another ism. Let today be that day that we write the narrative of she, he, and they that scripted a new patriotism. A patriotism that goes deeper than ham-fisted swagger and bullying bluster. A patriotism not so easily stitched into clothing and made into a slogan and worn as a nice flag on a lapel. But a patriotism that is ethically behaving, demanding a leader's active displaying that all of its nation's citizens are worth the effort of saving. A humanistic patriotism that means caring enough to make sure a child's hunger goes away. A patriotism guaranteeing healthcare without delay. A patriotism driven by reasoned insight that knows it's right to ensure all Americans can afford higher education. Because a great nation knows that enriching each citizen intellectually effectively raises its people's collective capacity to think and consider critically, so that its democracy doesn't fall prey to a clownish and perverted brown-shirted inanity, to a hypnotic and demagogic insanity. A patriotism that is a lived civic virtue, one of compassion, one that demands we not only love America, but that we love Americans. A new narrative in which we muster mind and will to fight the viruses in our country, the virus threatening the body corporeal, and the virulent inhumanity threatening the body politic. A new narrative in which we rise to the climate's clear clarion call to prevent future fires from feeding on our forests, in which we erase the ominous redness from our western horizon and block the black smock of smoke that now aches our air, where we stand up for science and reason and accept that both our faults and fates are not in our stars, and that in ourselves is where the true solutions are. So let us begin today, here, where we stand with these battle-battered hands to write the new narrative of our country, a new narrative for a new world in which we break down these walls between us so we can hold hands, heal each other of these broken legs we've all learned to limp with, and finally move forward together, step by trembling step, into that welcoming, eye-aching light, into a shining America that reflects the very best truth of who we know we are, what our country can be: expansive, accepting, humanly beautiful, and bright.
My name is Ginger Brooker, and this is The Hollow. The sound of an empty room in an empty house. The wind blows through a silence so loud, filling the heart.
Hi, I'm Heather Candels, and my poem tonight is called Interloper. A clown climbed into my poem without permission. He just showed up with his red nose, flaccid balloons, and big shoes that I hoped would trip him, but instead stomped on my grapes, ravaged the lavender, and trampled the fragrant rosemary before he smashed the coffee pot and raided the refrigerator. His oxidized hair and grease paint had all dissolved into a sickly orange that blended in with the flames, shooting up in the distance where a circus tent burned. I wondered about the lions.
Hi, I'm Hannah Corrie, and this is Still Life with my great aunt. My great aunt, who once loved museums, now watches us all day as we go about our living, shouts at me from the old armchair, "You're so Renaissance," as I pass by, brushing my long red hair. Studies my father as he assembles a bookshelf, and after a while says, "Look at your hands, true carpenter's hands." Then she goes to find my mother, who is working in her office, the desk pushed up against a picture window. "So much light," she says. "It's like a Vermeer world in here." And at the end of the day, all of us gathered around the table, the leftovers laid out, she exclaims, "What a composition," as if it were a Dutch still life. A commentary on transience and mortality, the yellow roses slightly wilted, the lamplight bouncing off the chipped glasses and the scoffed silverware, as if to suggest there is no end to loss. But really, it's just some chicken and a little bit of broth. Just a Monday night when everyone wants to be done. Hands grabbing for meat, and then chairs scratching the wooden floor as we all leave. Except for my aunt, who sits there for a long time, head slightly tilted, her eyes straining in the dark.
Hi, my name is Chase Smith, and tonight my poem is called Unmasked. 1755, Venetian canal at midnight, no moon, no clouds, no stars. Hands freezing, Lucia tugs her cloak closer, fretful in the damp, smoothing the threads as the gondola glides along, rocking from side to side in the February fog until it bumps against a dock, unsteady. She gathers her gown and steps out, slipping, grasping at the wall, hands sliding on moss until her feet find purchase on solid cobblestones, and she emerges at the edge of a vast and colorless square, as if on stage. She looks for Bernardo, but can only see dark shadows in the mist, shifting so she fidgets, pulls out her mask, touches its porcelain curves, worn down from years of revelry. She hesitates, thinking back to how she snatched it from her mother's chest of drawers without permission, but better to beg forgiveness later, she reassures herself. This is, after all, carnival. Smoothing her sleeves, she squints, searching until suddenly a flash of light, the acrid sting of gunpowder, and the night bursts into color as a firework ignites above. Then two, then three sulphurous orbs, orange against the sky, blinding. She shields her eyes, the piazza swimming with blues and pinks in and out of focus. In the unstable, effervescent light she cannot quite see. Now the church bells are ringing, clamorous, competing. The horses atop San Marco seem to rear up at the noise, teeth snarling, lips foaming, straining to break free of the basilica roof. Golden tiles glinting in the broken light, angels flying, lions roaring. Through the smoke she can see the people in the square. But are these really people, she asks, recoiling. She steels herself, launching into the churning crowd, the light off balance, up, then down, bright, then dark, past a cackling joker whose nose is red, distended as he rides backward on a wailing donkey, past a drunken priest, sloshing wine over his cassock, past a plague doctor with broken beak, clutching at his belly, retching up his dinner on the pavement, past dancers, a cacophony of colors, there one moment and gone the next in the unfaithful light, past nobles dressed in rags and vagrants clad in finest silks, past reaching arms, past glinting, anonymous eyes, past flailing limbs whirling to drums, fifes, trumpets, past men throwing perfumed eggs at street vendors, grey-masked with leering mouths, hawking sticky cakes and spiced liquor, mixed with the smell of sick and sweat, until she runs into a crowd of women, oval masks as dark as coal, consuming their faces, leaving nothing left but a void. Stumbling back, she sees a man in a familiar blue cape with pomegranate lining, striped trousers, a cane dangling beside him, and shouts at last, "It's me." "Why aren't you wearing your mask?" Bernardo wonders, removing his own, concerned. Lucia stares around, the masks around them seeming to float, suspended, the faces that are not faces staring into space. I didn't feel like myself. He frowns, following her gaze, then smiles. Well, people don't need a mask to be who they are not, she thinks. Then slowly, a wry smile flickers on her lips. She helps him set his mask back into place, and then she dons her own, the ceramic cool against her skin. And stepping through the revelers, they dance together under the fickle light.
Hi, I'm Emma McCully, and my poem is called Love from Within a Dying Star. Outside it is storming, but under the tin roof with rain beating down, we create a small space of light and warmth, an eye in an unrelenting storm. You're making me believe that people are good again, you mumble from the confines of your cocoon, the sleeping bag muffling your voice, but the words deafening all the same. You say this and I close my eyes, the moment too intense. If I open them again, you'll have evaporated into the storm clouds hovering above. You stumbled upon my heart at its most jaded, folded up as tight as the notes kids pass in class. But as you spoke and as you listened, my heart unfurled like a fern in the morning sun. Finding love in a global pandemic was easier than finding it in a crowded bar. The small galaxy within you brushes up against me, hoping for a chance at a supernova. It could all blow up, but that's how we get the beauty of the world. Half the elements in the periodic table are only here from catastrophe. Stars implode and create new worlds with their corpses. And maybe that's what's happening just outside the door. Maybe we're just mid-supernova. And if it can wait a little longer for the dust to settle, for the cosmic smoke to sink, we'll find a world of beauty outside, unparalleled. I open my eyes, and in the blue of yours, I see colliding stars.
Hi, I'm Nick Dehn, and this is Field Notes. I'm writing an ethnography of myself. If I had any research assistants, they'd tell me I've written 228 entries so far, and my notebook is nearly worn into strips, and could I please remember to pay them this semester? I'd say, how'd you get in here? It's an exercise in curiosity, in vanity, in manifest destiny. I'm a population. I'm on a multi-million-dollar grant. I'm a piece of work. If I had any critics, they'd tell me it's an affront to the discipline. It's neo-colonialist, retro-sadist, auto-antithetical, and anthro-heretical. I'm spitting in the proverbial face of years of research. I'm a farce, a subject without a subject, claimless to indigeneity, ingenuity, interpretability. Entire fields have been raised only for me to dip my feet into the swamp that remains. I'm making a muck of things, treading on holy ground, mining for gold and opal and canopic jars and derelict scrolls. Not finding much, but maybe I can skip peer review. This body needs some work. I actually do take those phantasmic freshmen's words to heart. Critics too. I try to resist the voyeuristic connotations with each stroke of the ballpoint pen. Is this helping me? Is this violence? Do I understand the language I speak? And chalk it all up to self-improvement, to an appreciation for nuance, to a shout out in some college kids' annotated bibliography. Comparing field notes I wrote on day 7 or 8 to those I wrote last week, I tell you that's the anatomy of an unremembered dream. I don't know where my mind was. The rituals were fascinating, the customs uncustomary. A cartographer, I charted out my movements on graph paper, and my methodology was precise. Take notes in the morning, tea, 8 hours of typing, poultry and chickpeas, the raw and the cooked, more notes at night. Now I'm wondering where that participant observer went, trying to get that kinship back, to earn the trust of the locals. There's going to be an uprising. On day 229, I skipped writing altogether. I couldn't quite recognize the maps of my teeth, my chin, my elbow, my mind. I'd gone, liminal. So I imagined myself into the cryptid, the paleo me I was on day -1. Nostos, from the Greek meaning return. Yalgos, also from the Greek meaning pain, suffering, a cyclical and masochistic exercise, and the pain of loss necessarily being inaccessible, the feeling of a bruise, even though it's been gone for months, and a pain spoiled by the desired thing's recovery. The last of my entries. That window again, rainwater against it, the world as I left it.
Hi, I'm Rachael Jones, and I'm reading Teenage Immersion. I'm auditioning for a crucial role. I'm starring, of course, as teenage me. Every detail is totally accurate. Method acting isn't easy, you see. I moved in with my parents back home. My sister came back too. No expenses were spared. We need total authenticity. These days, everything seems to make me angry or confused. Further evidence that my teenage immersion strategy has succeeded. It's a strange way to be, spending time in my teenage mind. I'm recalling much of the mentality that I had left behind. A poster in my 4th grade class said, "Dream big." And you better believe I took that to heart. My plans were huge. First, my art is something of which the people couldn't be deprived. So whatever career I did, I would also produce some critically acclaimed books on the side. For the main event, I was clearly going to Harvard Law, but you don't want to sell yourself short. So maybe a quick stop at the Senate first, then on to the Supreme Court. And not some small fry justice. We're talking Chief Justice, please. Time magazine covers by the handful, crowds of passionate adorees. But I haven't done everything I planned to do. Maybe I didn't study enough and Harvard said no thank you. Sometimes I worry I wouldn't make teenage me proud. Did I just give up, put my goals on the proverbial shelf? But I'm starting to think I don't need to be doing exactly what teenage me dictated. My life on the lesser track is so full of days of badminton on the beach and hikes in the Virginia sun, those moments when joy feels in reach. Now my dreams are of a different vintage. A dinner in a bright new city when you stay out too late, meeting a new person who feels fresh, possibility, a clean slate. Reconnecting with old friends over soft serve, eating brownies straight from the pan, bringing my new cat home. Days better than I even thought to plan. Teenage me was yelling full steam ahead. Now I'm taking the back seat. But would success by any other name smell as sweet?
Hi, my name is Mairead Deacy, and my poem is called Growing Up, Then Down the Rabbit Hole. We all said, 2020 is my year, except it actually has been, you may be surprised to hear. That manual I studied for 22 years to welcome me to adulthood said, don't be afraid, just do as you should. Follow your lessons and you'll be good. Respect your elders, stand back with humility. He signs your paychecks, so don't fall your dignity. Roses are red, violets are blue, except violets are purple, and I've been set up to fail. So goodbye to standing by and waiting for the world to decide my worth. Goodbye to every lesson ingrained since birth. Goodbye to doing whatever I'm told, listening to those I make feel old. Goodbye to what you've told me about growing up. I'll navigate this rabbit hole based on all my own stuff. Instead of sitting quietly and aiming to please, here are my strengths. What can you do for me? So, in a year full of catastrophe, chaos, and hell, I've never been better. It's going quite well. A stable sense of self against any worry has muffled years of chronic anxiety. So, cheers. No, seriously, to the best year of my life. It only took sinking into this global dumpster fire and screwing all that received advice to cure my strife.
Hi, my name is Elise Vocke, and I will be performing Time. The best Big Ten school, and the absolute best 4 years you'll have of your life, echoed in my ears on my way home from Pennsylvania on that chilly September afternoon. I peered out the window at the PA Mountains, feeling empty like the farm fields. Putting on makeup with friends, hanging out at my boyfriend's fraternity, going out to eat with classmates, all seemed like things of the past. Distant fond memories to tell my kids one day. 2 years. I had the best 2 years is what I'll say. My junior year memory is sitting on Old Main Lawn with a mask on, 6 feet apart from my best friends. That's it. Nowhere to go but my cold, lonely apartment. Now I am home, trying to convince my parents to turn the ping pong table into a beer pong table. I was scrambling to come up with a positive, just one positive from this crazy mess that is our new world. Well, I try not to test positive. I know one thing. I will never again take things for granted and will cherish dinner dates, friend get-togethers, hugs, kisses, human embrace, time. When this time is over, and it will be one day, I will visit relatives I couldn't see and surprise old friends who missed me. We'll go back to having sleepovers and shopping for hours. Time is all we have. I won't let this time become a distant memory. As I look back on photographs of the old world, I will live in the present. I will embrace this time. My amazing family, a FaceTime dinner date, a Zoom call with friends, a phone call with distant relatives. Because one thing that this crazy time has taught us is nothing can ever be expected.
I'm Susan Lauricella. My poem is Simple Blessings. A present came in the mail the other day. 3 soft gray masks tumbled out. I placed one on my face and smiled. New Hampshire, Colorado, and New York all came back home and stayed 9 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 months. Not what they had planned. But we shared meals, took long hikes, and hugged. A cardboard box filled with 48 rolls of colorfully wrapped toilet paper called Who Gives a Crap? They use recycled materials. They help build toilets. This makes me happy. Small clusters of chairs placed strategically in a circle. We light the fire, gather round, 6 feet apart, and we toast someone's retirement, a birthday, the weekend, our health. On our 35th wedding anniversary, a bright blue Dutch oven arrived from New Hampshire, Colorado, and New York. My husband bakes bread. I stir soup. And we eat well.
Thank you all so much for attending our Poetry in Motion alumni show this evening. After a brief musical interlude, we will have a brief Q&A with the poets. So if you'd like to stick around for that, please do. We'd love to chat with you. If not, have a wonderful evening, weekend, and happy holiday season. Hope you all stay well, feel well, and have a great new year. Thank you.